right, we're good. The Lord be with you.
Also with you.
Lord be with you again. Welcome back. We got a lot of work to do, and I know you'll want to be ready for it. Folks have asked me and asked me and asked me how can they get a copy of this presentation. And I spoke to our communications officer, John Coleman, and he's going to work on that. And well, definitely everything's live stream is cataloged, but we're going to work on picking off that piece and making it available so you can download it and show it at your churches. And Bishop Lee, I understand, is also working on a study guide so that we'll make sure you are aware when that's available as well. Because this is the kind of thing we can really do it at our churches. It's practical, it's easy, it is life-changing. And so I want to deputize all of you to go forth and do this kind of training, this kind of conversation in your local churches. Transform this world one person at a time. We are privileged to have with us another youth delegate presiding at the table. This is Matthew Lynch, also from the New Creation United Methodist Church in beautiful downtown Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And he'll give us our opening prayer.
Try that one. So let's go to God, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you asking and praying for wisdom as we begin to debate this in a few minutes. You know we need patience, and we pray that you help us to be open-hearted and open-minded towards our brothers and sisters. Amen.
And in keeping with that, we're now going to have our daily monitoring report led by Ms. Marilyn Wilt.
Good morning. I'm an equalizing delegate for the Southeast District, and I worship at Lima United Methodist Church. The Commission on the Status and Role of Women, the Commission on Religion and Race, and the Disabilities Concerns Committee have once again collaborated to monitor our annual conference for inclusiveness. And my task this morning is to report on findings from yesterday's session. First of all, it's a blessing to be a delegate at our diverse annual conference, where we value everyone having a place at the table. Our goal of monitoring is to build a beloved community characterized by inclusion, justice, and equity. Monitoring seeks to give a voice to those who are not being heard. Monitoring must also be tied to the mission and priorities of our church and our ability to reach more people, younger people, and more diverse persons for Christ. Increased diversity is not the end, but a means to the end. During the laity session yesterday, there was equal representation of male and female delegates, but we had 6 times as many white persons participating as there were persons of color. The videos, while displaying a very admirable ministry, Good Works, showed whites, with all the persons being helped, being African American. In the clergy session, there was virtually equal number of men and women participating, but no male persons of color were at the microphones. There's only one person of color being commissioned and no one of color being ordained this year. While the projection screens made it easy to see participants in the laity session, it was very difficult for the clergy participants to be seen and heard by all. And many persons were cold in both sessions, despite the warm welcomes that we gave and received from each other. During the opening worship, we demonstrated diversity with gender and role, but we did not have male persons of color represented. Monitors noted that having gluten-free bread and both juice and water was helpful to make all people feel included in Holy Communion. During the afternoon Holy Conferencing with our General Conference delegates reporting, we had only one person of color reporting. During our evening resolutions and reports, we had double the amount of men at the podium as there were women, and more white clergy than any other ethnic persons. While we're doing a good job, we need to remain intentional about our inclusiveness and encourage all persons to be heard and to have a place at the microphone. Let us remember what Bishop Linda Lee just said to us this morning. Presence does not always guarantee or ensure participation. May God continue to bless our annual conference as we seek to include everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a holistic report. And remember, we're going on to perfection. We can't get it perfect, but we're going to keep learning and growing and doing better and better in this. This is such an important thing to have every day to help us understand where we can be improving. This time we'll call Reverend Joe DiPaolo back to revisit 2016-1, Resolution 2016-1. And what page is that on? Page 1. Well, that's hard to find. Go to page 1.
Page 1, yes. Well, good morning. Good to be back. How did it feel to have no rules for the last 6 or 10 hours?
No one died.
I was asked to sort of recap things as of, again, this morning for those who may not remember or may not have been here. So if you have before you Resolution 2016 number 1 on page 1 of your green covered packet, this is the process that is recommended as an addition to our rules, which would then become a part of our permanent rules going forward. Of course, they can be altered by conference action anytime we meet. And this was developed by the delegation of general and jurisdictional conference delegates in order to give us some help and structure going forward. We do this every 4 years, and yet it seems like every 4 years we kind of make it up again. So the idea was, let's have something in place that can be a basis, a procedure that will be helpful for the conference to operate under as we move forward each time. As you can see, the way that it's laid out, the delegation, after it's elected, will inaugurate the process of identifying potential Episcopal candidates, usually by inviting you to nominate people. Then a process is set up by which essays are written and interviews are held, and then the delegation comes to a place of recommending or not recommending persons then to come before the annual conference to be endorsed as the official nominee of the Eastern Penn Conference. The way that we've set this up, we hope, was bringing some clarity to the process, because in past years we sometimes got tangled up in what was not a clear process. So the idea is, first, the report would come from the jurisdictional delegation with its recommendation. You would then act on that. If you endorse that by a 2/3 vote, then that is the decision of the annual conference. If you do not endorse that by a full 2/3 vote, then it comes back to you, the body, and the body then can nominate persons from the floor. We have some requirements for that as far as making information available to people about the nominees, and then also having a period of 4 hours so that people can consider prayerfully those persons. Then we would move to balloting as indicated in the resolution. Now that the required 6 hours has lapsed from suspending the rules for considering this, it should be properly before the body for debate.
It is indeed. It takes no second, and it's time for conversation. I see someone at microphone number 1.
Good morning, Bishop. Andrew L. Foster III, Clergy, East District, James Memorial. I have a substitute. I would like to offer a substitute to this resolution.
That's in order. Let's hear it.
Whereas the current rules of order of the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference are silent on the process by which Episcopal candidates are endorsed, and whereas paragraph 405.1 of the 2012 Book of Discipline provides that an annual conference in the session immediately prior to the next regular session of the jurisdictional or central conference may name one or more nominees for Episcopal election. Therefore, be it resolved that the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference Rules of Order be amended as follows. The jurisdictional delegation may, by its own vetting process, present one or more names for nomination to the annual conference. If the jurisdictional delegation places one or more names before the conference for nomination, the conference shall then proceed to confirm said nominee or nominees individually by 60% of the vote by those present and eligible to vote. Additional nominations from the floor shall then be in order. The ordained elder in full connection who is being nominated from the floor shall have given his or her consent prior to the making of the nomination. Once all nominations from the floor have been received, the annual conference shall proceed to indicate a nominee or nominees by ballot vote as follows. Each floor nominee shall be voted on individually, and any person receiving 60% of the vote would move forward. Excuse me. I am nervous. I don't know why. I don't have a wooden pulpit in front of me, so. Each person will receiving 60% of the vote would move forward as a nominee endorsed by the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference. The jurisdictional delegation shall not be bound by any action of the delegation or the annual conference regarding confirmed and/or endorsed nominees. If I get a second, I'll be glad to speak to it.
It's been seconded. Please speak to it.
Okay. Again, thank you, Bishop. The prophet Micah in chapter 6, verse 8 states, "He has shown you, O man, what is good and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." It has been almost 50 years since we came together as the United Methodist Church, and during that time, the conference has not once failed to nominate at least one Episcopal candidate. We are at a pivotal point in history when we have 2 Episcopal vacancies previously held by people of color. What will history record about us? To suggest that we do not have a qualified candidate in general and qualified people of color in particular is absurd at best and breaches the fringes of racism at worst. The right to endorse an Episcopal candidate belongs to the annual conference, and the main motion seeks to disenfranchise the annual conference by proposing a method that only sends forth a candidate from the delegation. The main motion also makes it virtually impossible for a person of color in particular and any person in general to get the endorsement from the floor by requiring 66.66% or almost 67% vote on a single ballot. The jurisdiction only requires 60% to be elected bishop. Historically, we have voted on delegation nominees using 50% or 60%, except in 2012, of which I was a jurisdictional delegate. Thank you for the time allotted.
Okay, the substitute is in favor, is in front of us right now. It's been seconded. We may debate this at this time, so we're going to put on hold the original and discuss this to see if the body wishes to substitute this for what was presented first. He just did a speech in favor, so in order now would be a speech opposed. Is there anyone here to speak opposing this substitution? I don't see anybody coming to the mic. Okay, then speech in favor is in order. He was a speech in favor. Okay, well, it looks like the body's ready to. Okay. Okay. What is your business? Speaking.
Can I ask a question of the?
Wait a minute. I see somebody going to the mic now. We're getting some spin. Microphone 6. What is your business?
Question, Chris Fisher.
Okay.
School Haven First. So this is a request for information. Does the nomination process for either of these 2 proposals still remain in place? That all the clergy will get a chance to nominate somebody as they did this past year, whatever happens about the delegation. So from my understanding, we've had to nominate someone. If they got 10 nominations, they would be considered by the jurisdictional committee. And will that also be the case for Reverend Foster's proposal?
Okay, Reverend Foster, will you answer that?
Yes.
All righty.
There's actually nothing that
And from the jurisdictional proposal, Reverend DiPaolo.
Yeah, there's actually nothing that requires that. That's, again, part of the process that's been sort of ad hoc every 4 years. So this year, the decision of the committee was to ask for 10 as a minimum. In previous years, it was 5 or there was none. That's really not written in stone. That process was something that the delegation put together, and each delegation can put together as it sees fit.
Well, it seems to me that should be added as a point to whichever proposal goes forward, so that the body has a chance to nominate people ahead of time. We get to see their bios printed in the
So
conference newspaper.
Are you making this an amendment
Yes,
to
that would be an
Andrew
amendment.
Foster?
Yes.
Okay, it would need to be in writing, but you're making an amendment to the substitute.
Yes.
Wait a minute, I see a point of order here, microphone 2.
Point of order, Bishop. When a substitute has been introduced, the only consideration is debate as to which of the motions, the resolutions will be considered, the main motion or the substitutions. There is no amendment at this time. Only which one will be used as the body goes forward, the substitute or the main motion. That is what we are debating, and that's what we vote on.
Okay, well, I'm hearing two different parliamentarians here, but let's just at this point decide which one we want to go with, and we'll do amending later. Should this be the one we end up with? How's that, Reverend Fisher?
Bishop.
And this is speech at microphone 1. What is your business?
Hi, Lenore Thompson, Wharton West United Methodist Church. Are we going to get to see printed, at least on the screen, what the substitution motion is?
Let me ask. That's a good question. It was not submitted to us in electronic form. Could it be?
Bishop, it was emailed to Joan Fielding, and printed copies were given to one of the tellers.
Okay. Then looks like we'll work on that.
Thank you.
Okay. I see someone at microphone number 4.
Nancy Ludwig from Lima Memorial. I'm wondering if licensed local pastors are allowed to vote on those candidates, and if not, then I think we need to take in consideration what percentage you are going to require if that large body of this session are not allowed to participate.
When we vote for delegates for general and jurisdictional conference, we do draw lines. But in this process, anyone with a name tag, lay or clergy, any kind of clergy, gets the vote.
Thank you.
Good question. And we're working right now on getting this substitution in front of you so you all can look at it. By microphone number 2.
Barry Nicholson, Northwest District. I have a question for Pastor Foster. The one difference between your substitute motion and the motion from the delegation was the % required for election. Did I also note that another difference is that you would allow an unlimited number of people to then be nominated or put forward from our conference, as opposed to the resolution from the delegation, which was to limit it to whatever number of vacancies were available for bishops? Was that also a difference, or is that the same?
The difference, yes, to the percentage. The vacancies, yes, but it was not an unlimited number.
Not an unlimited number?
Correct.
Okay, so it's just
vacancies.
that part that's the same. So if we needed 2 bishops, we would only be able to put forward 2 names.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Microphone number 4.
I have a question. Brian Albert on Loan to Pendel Conference. We had a 6-hour wait on this resolution. If we adopt the substitute, will that be 6 hours for us to look at it and ponder it?
No. It's before us now. The parliamentarian has said that, Reverend Foster, you put 2/3 in your motion, and now you're saying 60%. So when we put this up on the wall, it's going to say 2/3, but you've changed it to 60%, right? Okay, so we'll have to, so the one you sent us needs amending per what you just said. See someone at microphone number 5.
Nelson Alleman, Bethany, Lebanon. Maybe this is a point of order. Could this be printed so that we can all see it and table this until this afternoon, and then we can read them side by side?
If you want to make that a motion, it's in.
I make
you
that a
can.
motion that we table this until we can read them side by side.
I hear a second, and that's not debatable. This is non-debatable, and it needs 2/3. So if you want to table until you get it all in front of you, and we'll pick this up in the afternoon, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. It is tabled. Thank you very much.
I'll see you again.
Folks, we need to remember to be here the whole time through Saturday afternoon, not Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon. Microphone number 3.
Stuart Warner, Salem, Orwigsburg. Just, I had a point of information, or not information, but clarification. Is that possible to ask that? Because it would impact the presentation.
Well, let's hear it, and I'll tell you
Okay.
what I think.
Just, I thought I heard that the person making the motion said that the 10 nominations was part of his motion, even though he didn't say it up front. So it really wouldn't be an amendment. So would that be included in what we get later on? Because he seemed open to that, and it wasn't didn't seem like it was an
It would have to
amendment.
be amended later on, I think, because it wasn't in the body of what he sent us.
Okay.
So
thank you.
if it's decided that that will be the one we're dealing with, then we'll go for amendments
Okay,
at that
'cause
time.
I thought I heard him say that was part of the motion, but it wasn't written down.
Well, we'll see what shows up.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, this time we have a visitor with us from Drew Theological School, a School of Theology from Drew University. This is Dr. Jenny Samuel, and she's the Associate Dean, and she'll be coming up now to greet us. She has been working there many years, and I was pleased to be hosted by Reverend Samuels when I taught there 2 years ago at a course I taught for a week in January on disabilities. And I'm just so blessed by her friendship and her presence. And we haven't had a Drew person come and greet us in a long time. So we have a lot of Drew graduates out there. So yeah, I see them. They're going hallelujah. So Dr. Samuel, will you please greet us now?
Thank you, Bishop Johnson, and a special word of thanks to you for your friendship with Drew. The course that she referred to was a very large class. It was taught in January, so it was a very intensive class. It means multiple hours every day. And the students that were in that class told me frequently after that class was over how their lives were changed in so very, very many wonderful ways. So we're grateful to you, Bishop Johnson, and we want you to come back and teach that again sometime when you're able to. She also preached in our chapel several times, most recently this spring, and we're grateful for that as well. Friends, it's my pleasure to bring greetings to you on behalf of our Dean, the Reverend Dr. Javier Vieira. Dean Vieira would be with us now, except for the fact that he is currently with 18 of our students in Colombia, South America. He is leading one of our cross-cultural courses, which is a requirement for the MDiv program. So we have classes that take students all around the world. And the goals of those classes are varied depending on their particular culture, but at the highest level, there is but one goal, and that is to help our students appreciate and be comfortable with difference, so that then when they go into ministry themselves, they recognize the importance and the value of getting to know and care for and work with people who see things differently than they do for whatever reasons, so that the ministry can flourish. I'm happy to say that Drew Theological School is doing well. Bishop, its enrollment is strong for the fall. We are in the middle of a curricular revision program, which is going to see us offering different modalities of delivery. So we will have a part-time program, a full-time program, and then we have a lot of online classes. And while we will never do 100% of the degree online, because we believe it's so important for formation for people to be together in the same room and to study together and learn together, we will be increasing the number of online classes. So we're excited to roll that out probably in the fall of 2017, so you'll hear more about that. We have a table in the display room, which I think is upstairs, and we hope you will stop by and get some information about Drew. We would love to come and have you join us. It's an incredibly diverse community When you look in a classroom, you don't see a majority culture. And that's by design. We do that intentionally. We've been working on it for probably 20 years. So that means that we have rich conversations, not always easy, but they are rich, not unlike the conversations that you've been having here this annual conference, and I know preceding that. So please stop by and see us upstairs at the table. Thank you for your gracious welcome, Bishop, and God bless all of you as you continue an annual conference and then on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And remember, Drew is one of our 13 United Methodist-related schools. We have 13 of them. Just happens that there's 4 of them in the bounds of this annual conference that are non-United Methodist schools, but they are approved. But Drew is not very far away. That's right in our backyard as well. At this time, we'd like to consider another resolution, and this will be 2016-7, and it's about driver's licenses, and Lauren Ballister will be presenting. It's on page 8.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2016-07.
It needs no second. It's properly before you. Would you like to speak to it?
I would.
Please.
In our prayer of repentance yesterday, we asked God for eyes to see the pain of others and open hearts to love one another. So as you consider saying yes to this resolution, open your eyes to the pain of our undocumented neighbors and remember the Seneca greeting that echoed in this room yesterday. Matakuise, we are all relatives. This resolution supports extending God's love and grace to all members of God's kingdom by joining over 40 organizations across the state in endorsing House Bill 1450 in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, which would allow undocumented immigrants to apply for driver's licenses. This is already the law in 13 states. With this law, undocumented drivers would need to fulfill the same requirements as all other drivers, such as passing written and road tests. Giving undocumented drivers the opportunity to obtain driver's licenses makes the roads safer for all of us, as more drivers would have passed driver's tests and have insurance. It would not allow undocumented immigrants to obtain welfare benefits or travel outside the country. Presently in Pennsylvania, undocumented immigrants cannot obtain driver's licenses. This makes Pennsylvania roads less safe and hurts our economy. Workers who need to drive to get to their work are either driving without licenses or insurance, or they are not working. Some 200,000 undocumented people in Pennsylvania cannot legally drive to their places of worship, work, school, or hospitals. If they do drive without a license, they are at risk of being deported for driving without a license, and families are torn asunder. Here's an example. David lived with his family in Chambersburg, PA, and worked on a family dairy farm. He awoke at 3 every morning to drive to work and to support his family. When his car broke down on his way to work, a police officer offered assistance. However, when the officer realized David was driving without a license and undocumented, immigration was notified and David was immediately deported to Guatemala. His children lost their father, his wife lost her husband, the family farm lost a worker. People like David are in our churches and in our communities. They are our neighbors and fellow children of God. We need to support them. Jesus said, "I was hungry and you gave me food, thirsty and you gave me drink, a stranger and you welcomed me." As Christians, we are called to welcome the strangers among us. Welcoming the stranger helps all of us, undocumented and citizen. I move for its adoption.
Is there any conversation about 2016-07? Anybody coming to the mic? I'm not seeing anyone. That means the body's ready. If you will approve, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. And I believe it is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next person ready to present is whoever shows up. We kind of had to regroup here a little bit because of, we have Bev Andrews, another resolution. Whenever something gets tabled, it kind of changes everything up here, and that's why we never print agendas too tight, because you might get married to it, and life isn't that structured when we start making resolutions. So we are pleased to have Reverend Beverly Andrews here with us from the Safe Sanctuary, or not Safe Sanctuaries, from the iCare team. And please tell us your number and your
Alrighty.
resolution.
Thank you, Bishop. There it is. I move adoption of Resolution 2016-19, which can be found beginning on page 23.
is properly before you. It needs no second. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I would.
I knew that.
Thank you, Bishop Johnson. We were supposed to go this afternoon, and our iCare team was all going to be with me up here on the stage. So in a moment, I'm going to ask them to stand, so just get yourselves ready to stand. Thank you, Bishop Johnson, extended cabinet, my sisters and brothers in Christ of the Eastern Pennsylvania Annual Conference. I believe you've all had an opportunity to read the content of this resolution, and I do move its adoption. My friends, our mission is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. The people who participate in the life of all our churches at any level need to know that they can trust us to do everything possible to assure their safety and to respond appropriately when their safety is violated, especially in such an intimate way as sexual misconduct. It is the work of every member and staff or volunteer in each of our congregations to treat every person we encounter with respect and dignity, as we've heard from Reverend Dr. Fassett last night and from Bishop Lee this morning so eloquently. When we fail to guard each one's dignity, we fail to follow Christ's example. Our congregations are welcoming many people who have no church background, others who do, and still others who may be coming to us hoping for healing from negative previous church experiences. People need to be assured that in our churches, we are more interested in their well-being than in our organizational comfort or business as usual. Many people in our world today view the church as a suspect organization, which has those priorities reversed. To ensure that each of our congregations and our annual conference keep focused on first things first, your conference response team for sexual misconduct in churches, known in our conference by the anagram iCare, brings this resolution. I'm going to ask now the members of our current team to stand where you are if you're in the room. Okay, I see a few. Maurice and Jim and Dave in the back and Susan and Johnson. Okay, and there are more of us. We have oh, is that Barb back there? Yes, okay, good. We have an exhibit in the middle of the exhibit hall with the list of all of our current members on the iCare team. This is a really dedicated group. It's okay for you to sit down now if you'd like. Thank you. We've been working conscientiously over several months to craft this policy, which replaces our current policy that was adopted in 1998. We want to acknowledge the tremendous assistance in this endeavor of Reverend Dr. Darrell Stevens, an ordained deacon of the Central Texas Conference, now living here in Lancaster. Darrell, who will be incoming co-chair of iCare, along with longtime team member Reverend Dr. Bruni Martinez, is the former Assistant General Secretary for Advocacy and Sexual Ethics at the General Commission on the Status and Role of Women of the United Methodist Church. In this resolution, we are stating our conference policy for dealing with situations of sexual harassment and abuse involving adults connected with our EPA conference churches and congregations. You'll note that we are strictly addressing policy. Policy is the legally binding standard to which we agree to hold ourselves. Procedures, on the other hand, need the ability and the agility to respond to a variety of situations and circumstances, as well as changing laws, as we've noticed in the last few years. Our procedures are separate. If you have questions about the procedures used by the iCare team in responding to allegations of sexual misconduct, you'll find that information on our display table upstairs. As noted in the body of the resolution, specific procedures for filing complaints and for judicatory responses are found in the United Methodist Book of Discipline. We've focused here solely on situations involving adult recipients, as our Safe Sanctuaries policy deals with these matters where children and youth are involved. Our goal was to be clear and succinct. We gave some illustrations to aid people in looking at areas which we have found to be sources of confusion in some of the congregations with whom we have worked. I, along with my colleagues, hope that you will adopt this resolution.
Are there any questions or conversation? I see someone coming to microphone number 1.
I just have a question for clarification.
Yes.
Is this the is this the full policy, or is there more to the policy? The question I'm having, there seems to be, I've heard people say that children under a certain age in a church facility are not allowed to be moving around the church without someone who is at least 18 or older with them. Could you clarify that? I saw in the policy it said that if you can't supervise a group unless you are 18, but is there something in the full policy that says what I just said?
I think what's happening is we have two policies that tend to be seen together, where they're actually separate. So we have a Safe Sanctuaries policy, and the body of that policy addresses children and youth in our churches and procedures for safeguarding children and youth, such as the need for supervision for children and regulations about who can do that.
Okay.
And those are in line with recent changes in Pennsylvania statutes. So
right. I understand.
when that resolution comes, that would be the place to deal with that question. This policy, this resolution, is the policy specifically dealing with adult recipients of misconduct behavior.
Okay, so what I'm asking has nothing to do with what's before us.
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
That's it.
So who can I get the answer to my question from later?
Jim Wilkin and that Safe Sanctuaries resolution.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Microphone number 3.
Jason Perkowski, local licensed pastor at Faith United Methodist. I've got a concern with the sections on lines 95 through 100. I understand the intention of that resolution that's listed as the book of resolutions that lists what sexual abuse is.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is that it also prevents healthy sexual relationships that may exist because of the way in which it's worded. Technically speaking, I'm in violation of 95 through 100, when earlier in my career, I was married to a coworker who was the children's minister while I was the youth pastor. We were not in a situation where I was responsible for her as a parishioner. I was not in a position where there was anything that was sexual abuse. Matter of fact, I married her. But according to 95 through 100, after we were married, if we engaged in normal marital relationships, that normal marital relationship would be considered sexual abuse because of the way that it's written. So I would like to offer an amendment at line 98 that would simply say, except within the bounds of marriage.
Okay.
Because otherwise this would prevent a pastor to have a wife that is a children's worker. That would prevent many relationships within the church between co-workers, etc., where it's not an issue of power, it's not an issue of abuse. You get a person that have been married for 10 years and then get appointed to a church and they're doing their ministry, and now they can't because this actually would preclude it and would define it as sexual abuse.
Right. Our goal.
This is amendment,
Yeah.
so I guess we have to deal with it, and you get to speak to it. But does this have a second? Point of order. Okay, microphone number 1.
Jim McIntyre, Hope Church in Havertown. The amendment is suggesting a change to the Book of Resolutions language that's quoted
Yeah.
in your resolution. We can't amend that. It's as it is.
Right.
Well, that's a good point.
And I do
That was
understand
my
that point,
concern.
and I've got a concern with that as well, which is why I think we need to be much more careful about how we write resolutions, because we write resolutions poorly, both in this body and at General Conference, that lend to these sort of problems. However, I think we can get around it by adding in, after the quotation mark, the language of except within the bounds of marriage, so that it's not changing the resolution. It's simply clarifying probably what the writers of the original resolution intended. They didn't intend for a husband and wife to be in a sexual abusive relationship merely because they were working together in ministry at a local church. I don't think that's what they intended. They simply wrote the resolution poorly. Therefore, if we add it in as a point of clarification for our own policies, I think we're fine.
So you're adding another sentence.
Well, no, you can have a sentence. I would delete the period after the word volunteer and add in except within the bounds of marriage after 136, and then put a period at the end of the sentence there. So that mine would be after the quotation mark, after the reference to the Book of Resolutions. So it's in the same sentence. You simply say except within the bounds of marriage, period.
Okay, did we have a second? Okay. Point of order, one.
I don't know if it's a point of order or not, but sexual relationship within a marriage is not sexual abuse necessarily.
Right.
So
We pray not.
I'm not sure what we're talking about.
That would be a speech against.
Thank you.
Does anyone speak in favor of this amendment to add the little piece about except in marriage? Except within the bounds of marriage. Somebody going to number 4. His red cards are very helpful. I can see.
feel his pain because my wife's the music director and I'm the associate pastor.
All right,
So-
the plot thickens. Okay. Is that all you were going to say? That was a speech in favor.
Very much so.
Okay, I got you. Anyone want to speak against? Number 2, are you speaking against?
I have a question.
This is a question. You're in
I
order.
do not see that quoted language on page 136 of the Book of Discipline.
This is
Oh,
the
it's
Book of
resolutions.
Resolutions.
That's a different book.
Oh, Book
You
of
got to buy that
Resolutions.
one too. You'll love
Okay.
it. But don't buy it now because 2016 is about to happen. So, okay. Any other speeches in favor or opposed to the extra couple words? I see someone at microphone number 5.
Mark Terry, Oxford United Methodist Church.
What's
I will-
are you in favor or
speaking
opposed?
Against.
Against. Okay, you're in order.
Because I feel
No, I don't think you're in order. Oh, go ahead.
it's
Nobody else was before, so you're in order. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel it's addressing an issue that is not going to arise, because I don't think we're going to have a situation in any of our churches where a married couple is going to be looked at askance because they're both working in the church. I feel that the definition is complete in addressing the situations that will arise in our churches.
Okay, that's a speech against. I've had 2 speeches against. Is anyone, or and 1 speech in favor? Is anyone ready to speak in favor? Microphone number 1, what's your pleasure?
Lynn Yeager, lay delegate, Chestnut Hill United Church. I think there may be a liability for some married couples.
Are you speaking in favor?
I'm speaking in favor
Okay,
of this
you're in
amendment.
order. Go ahead.
I think there may be a liability for some married couples, particularly same-sex couples, in that if they are working together in the church in supervisory positions over either adults or children in a ministry, there may be some who would use this tactic, identify this as a means of saying that there was, in fact, an inappropriate sexual relationship going on, and charge them. So I would support the amendment that it be within the bounds of marriage and allow those people to have the same protection that husband and wife would have.
Okay, I don't see anyone else coming to the mic, so I think the body's ready. Oh, sorry, number 5. What is your
Against.
speech against is in order?
Speaking against.
You are in
this
order.
is
David Wolverton from St. Mark's Church in Mount Joy. Jason, just to clarify, I get the intent of your amendment, and I think we all get the intent, but I need to side with our brother Jim McIntyre. The paragraph is about sexual abuse. So if you add the phrase that you are suggesting to add, you are in effect saying sexual abuse is okay in a marriage relationship.
Let's be in order, folks. This is not necessary to clap.
So we get the intent. I really support your intent. I am in the same boat. I married an individual who was a member of my church that I was serving 26 years ago. By that definition, we are in agreement. But I think in the context of this paragraph, it is defining what sexual abuse is. And if you add the phrase, I think you are going to actually set the stage for going against the very intent that you have.
Okay, you may respond if you'd like. Microphone number 3, please.
So I wonder, Reverend Wolverton, would it make sense if I offered an amendment to clarify that simply added, and I actually wrote that down as well, consensual sex within marital relationships? Because I do think there can be abuse within marriage. And so if you say consensual sex within marriage, that clarifies one piece. And so I'd like to offer that as an amendment. If I can get a second, I'd like to speak to that and then also address Dave's concern.
Yeah, we've got to clarify again because we don't have it in writing, and say it again what you're now saying instead of what you used to say.
So to address one part of the concern about the fact that it's within the realm of sexual abuse, I would like to add the phrase, except for consensual sex within marriage. That takes care of one issue in which you could actually have sexual abuse within marriage, and I want to be sensitive to that. And then also to address Dave's statement. This is within the bounds of sexual abuse. It's defining what sexual abuse is, which means Dave's relationship is sexual abuse, my relationship is sexual abuse. What it does is it prevents us as human beings within the church from having normal relationships. In order to follow this new policy, I would have to step down from my role as youth pastor if I wanted to have a relationship with my wife. You could not appoint a clergy person to a church and allow their spouse to serve in that church in these relationships. So you'd end up, in effect, having a wife serve at one church and a husband serve at another church because this policy would define their relationship as sexual abuse.
Okay, the parliamentarian has said that if the body wants to accept his amendment to his amendment, you can do so by unanimous consent. So if you just heard what Jason said about adding extra words. If you will, the only effect is to add these words right now. We're not approving it. We're just cleaning it up. If you will allow him to do that, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. Okay. Okay. It wasn't unanimous. So we're now have to have an amendment to the amendment. So now someone needs a second what he just said. Second, okay, and then we get to vote. Adding the word for consensual sex. Okay, the secretary has a word to say.
Jason, I need you to clarify because what you just said contradicts what you wrote in the amendment form. What you have on the amendment form is except for consensual sex within the bounds of marriage.
Correct.
Okay, is that the wording you want?
That's fine. Yeah, bounds of marriage within marriage. I'm fine. We'll go with what's written, which says bounds of marriage.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry, I forgot I added bounds of.
Okay, so now we have to vote on that. Okay, now we need to vote if we're going to add those words to the amendment. If so, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. Man, the body's kind of like in the middle there. It did pass. because people didn't vote much, but it did pass. Okay, so we're back to the amendment, and we're still debating it. And does anyone want to debate further? In order now would be a speech in favor, I believe, in favor of Jason's amended amendment. Point of order is always in order. Number 4.
This isn't a point of order.
Oh,
This is
okay.
a speech for.
Okay, point of order is at number 1. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm blind and I still can't see. Okay, number 1.
Cindy Brubaker from Lighthouse Fellowship. I understand what he was saying before, but if you move that period and make it a comma, you are changing it. And so you cannot change the shape of that sentence and say you haven't changed the Book of Resolutions, which is what it says.
That would be a speech against.
No, I'm asking,
yeah.
can he change that period and make it a comma when it's
Okay,
inside?
that's a question. Yeah, okay. I don't think you can change the Book of Resolutions.
Right.
I think that's not safe or wise. So is that what he's doing, is changing the Book of Resolutions? Okay, Jason, are you changing the Book of Resolutions? Would you answer the question that was well asked by
Sure.
Reverend Brubaker?
I understand the point.
Okay.
I believe as an English teacher.
Oh, boy.
No, I mean, I'm not being difficult. I just believe as an English teacher,
Okay.
whenever you're quoting something,
Right.
and you have a complete sentence that puts that quote within context,
Uh-huh.
to change the punctuation from a comma to a period, as long as that's done at the end of that quotation, to then extend the sentence to put it into context, which is what I'm doing, that is not changing the Book of Resolutions. That's simply editorial. That's just grammar. However, if the body is uncomfortable with that, I would be willing to write it up as a separate sentence and offer that. But I think that's probably more wordsmithing than is necessary. But if that would be the bishop's or the body's decision, I'll be happy to do that.
Is this unanimous? Okay, does anyone else want to speak for or against this? This is microphone number 6. What is your pleasure?
As another English teacher, I just want to clarify what Jason said, that it needs to be outside the quotation marks.
Microphone number 4.
Bron Yoakum, Grove Church. I'm not an English teacher, but I am the grammar police of whom your mother warned you.
Now we're in trouble.
Grammatically, the way it is currently written, you can also parse it out so that it is saying sexual abuse occurs when a person within a ministerial role of leadership engages in sexual conduct or sexualized behavior with a congregant. So to those who said it does not forbid that, it does. Grammatically, it does forbid sexual conduct between any leader and a member, a congregant, client, employee, student, staff member, coworker, or volunteer.
Okay, that would be a speech against, I would say. Speech in, no? Speech in
Speech
favor.
for.
Speech in
Yeah.
favor. Sorry. Okay. Microphone number 1. What is your speech in favor or speech opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, you're in order.
John Kretzman, Mountain Home United Methodist. The paragraph earlier, I understand what Jason is concerned about, but the paragraph says that sexual abuse is a form of sexual misconduct, and sexual misconduct is defined a couple paragraphs above. And I think that if we look at that definition of sexual misconduct, then we know we're not talking about a marriage relationship.
Okay. Microphone number 2.
Bishop, I move the question on all that is before us.
You're in order. If you are ready to move to the question and stop the debate, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. And we're ready, very much got the 2/3 here. So we are going to move now the amendment, the amended amendment from Jason Frykowski, which will be read by our secretary one more time.
In paragraph or line 98, changing the period to a comma and then adding except for consensual sex within the bounds of marriage.
If you approve, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. Okay, we have to do a standing vote. You all want to stand anyway, right? If you approve this, please stand. We're not counting. We're not counting. We can see better when we see bodies rather than hands, okay? You may be seated. And now if you oppose this, please stand. We're going to have to count. I'm sorry. The tellers, please prepare yourselves and get your sections. And we'll ask first that those who are supporting it, please stand. The people in favor, please stand and stay standing until tellers instructs you to do otherwise. Unfortunate. You've wasted time in such a place. I'm sorry about how we have to do it like this. Because we'll be here till Christmas. Every single thing. This report has lots of stuff in it. We'll never get to the report today because we're at the order of the day. People have to eat. So we're going to finish it later. If Deacon Tiffany Manning is in the house and she wants to come forward to prepare for our grace. Who's the chief teller? Who's the chief teller? Who's going to answer to me?
Monica Teller. Okay.
I will not say a thing until this happens. Okay. Good team. I try to keep this thing moving, but it's like general conference. Awkward. Okay. Now, those who oppose, please stand. And don't sit down until you're instructed by the tellers. Okay, folks, our secretary will read the results.
Well, hold on, I just figured it first.
Well, it's right there, right?
No, that's just the numbers.
Oh.
You want 2/3, right?
Down. Okay.
373 yes, 267 no.
Okay, so it does get added in, and I'm just going to test the body. I know we're up against a lunch break, and if there's any other things that people want to debate about this whole thing, we'll certainly do that the next time we get together. But I just want to see if perhaps the body is ready to vote on this. Microphone number 1.
At a point of order, Bishop, Jim McIntyre, Hope Church in Havertown.
All right.
What would be the process for, I suppose, asking you to rule on this and then send it to Judicial Council for a question of whether or not we are changing the Book of Resolutions?
I suppose you could ask for a ruling of law, and we can vote and see if the body wants to do that, and then we could do it, I guess.
Then I request the ruling of law on this point.
Say it.
Just
say the whole thing.
Request a ruling of law that the amendment that we just made to this resolution has attempted to change the Book of Resolutions of 2012, and that that's an inappropriate decision.
Does it have a second? Okay. Is microphone number 2, is this something about this?
Yeah, it's a point of order, just to confuse it all. I believe that we passed the motion to move all that is before us, so should we not be going to a vote on the resolution?
That is true. Yes, the person who moved the question did that. Yes, you're absolutely right. Right, but it has not been approved yet. Yeah, so I guess we can't because it hasn't been totally approved.
No, he
No.
can't appeal something that hasn't been decided yet. It's still on the floor.
Okay. All right, so we're dealing with the McIntyre referrals for a ruling of law. If the body will approve that, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. And it fails. Okay, so all is before us is the entire body, the whole work. So we did vote by 2/3, as was reminded to us, that we are to go straight to the whole document in front of us, the entire resolution as amended. I see a point. Somebody want to speak at microphone 6.
Thank you, Bishop. Oh, I'm louder than I realized. Sorry, using my preaching voice. Jennifer Berry, Soulberry United Methodist. I have a couple of issues with this as written.
Excuse me. We voted. The person that said all that goes before means that once we've settled with Mr. Reverend Perkowski, we had to go straight to a vote. And if there was more things that had to be discussed, then we'd have to, someone who voted for would have to come forward and ask for a reconsideration, and then we can reopen this. But right now, we have no recourse but to go straight to a vote.
Then, sadly, I would like to ask the body for a reconsideration.
Well, which side did you vote for when we voted for that? Go straight to the question. Did you?
I cannot go straight to the question. I did not vote to go straight to the question. Sorry.
Then you can't reconsider. So it would have to be someone who voted in the affirmative to say, no, I really want to keep talking about this. Is there anybody out there wanting to do that? Microphone number 4, that's not your business, right?
No, that's not, Bishop. I actually thought we were voting on the amendment. I was confused.
Okay, then is there any motion to reconsider? Microphone number 3.
I think it's important for us as a church that says that we are in favor of hearing from all people, including our young people, to be able to hear their voice. And sometimes we move quickly and we don't clarify what we're doing. So I do make a motion for reconsideration so we can hear the concerns of the young woman that came to the mic.
Did you vote in favor when it was asked, or did you
I
vote
did.
against? So now you're asking to reconsider. Okay, so now the body has to vote that. Okay, if you would like, as a body, to reconsider and reopen this back up and not go straight to voting on it, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. Motion to reconsider fails. So now we're ready to go straight to the vote for this entire piece as is in front of you, 2016-19. If you will support it, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. And it passes. And at this time, I'm calling Tiffany Manning to get ready for her announcement about a work project, and then we'll turn to the secretary for his announcements, and then we'll turn back to Tiffany for our prayer.
No problem.
Bishop? Sorry.
Microphone number 1.
My request for ruling of law
Okay.
is still before us, I think.
No, it did fail. I didn't get a majority.
I don't. No, we didn't. We didn't. Did we?
If you want to renew your motion, you may do it now.
I want to renew my motion.
Okay, he'd like to send this to a ruling of law. If the body will approve that, lift the hand and say aye.
Bishop, may I speak? May I speak to it?
I think you did, but sure, one more sentence, but then we really have to move along, so please.
My understanding also is that under General Conference rules, the language cannot be changed in the Book of Discipline or the Book of Resolutions except by petition to General Conference. General Conference has ended, so to change any of the language is inappropriate.
Okay, if you will support this, lift the hand and say aye. That's to refer this for a ruling of law. If you will support this, lift the hand and say aye. If not, same sign. Aye. It does fail. Reverend Manning.
I'm Tiffany Manning, and I'm chair of the Order of Deacons for the conference. This year, the Order of Deacons is celebrating their 20th anniversary. The first class of ordained deacons in eastern Pennsylvania had 6 members, and now the order has grown to 30 provisional and ordained deacons, with a number of individuals in the candidacy process. Today, many members of the order and candidates will be easy to find because we're wearing gray t-shirts and these red buttons that say, "Keep calm and call a deacon." Bishop Johnson, we'd like you to have one of these buttons so that you can remember who you can call on when times get stressful.
I need it right now.
Deacons are called to word, service, compassion, and justice. And each one of us fulfills our call in different ways. At a recent gathering of deacons and deacon candidates, we wrote down the variety of gifts we have for ministry. These gifts have been joined together on this banner by deacon candidate Joanne Miles to represent our many gifts for ministry and the common deacon's heart that we share. Deacon Greg Ellis, who is soon to be ordained, created this video so you can read the names, see the faces, and learn about the diverse ministries in which Eastern Pennsylvania deacons are involved. During the lunch break today, the deacons will be living out their call to both service and compassion by assembling health kits for UMCOR. Any deacons and candidates that are helping with this project, if you could please start making your way to the lobby so that we're ready for the lunch break. We'd like to thank everyone for their generous efforts in gathering supplies for the health kits, both personally and within your congregations. The Order of Deacons invites you to join us just outside this room during our lunch break to help with assembling these kits. The kits will provide basic necessities to people who have been forced to leave their homes because of human conflict or natural disaster. Some of the materials that were collected yesterday are unable to be used by UMCOR due to international shipping regulations. So if you are connected with an outreach ministry that could use personal hygiene items, please see a deacon at the Service Project area, and we'd be glad to distribute these donations throughout the conference. Thank you for your support of this service project.
Drew alumni will be meeting in Independence A for lunch today. Duke alumni will be meeting in Independence B for lunch. The 2016 delegation is asked to meet here at the front of the stage